Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Kingdon Radio Hour podcast. My name is Angel, better known as Tumblr user TV Gremlin, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Meg, aka Avocadomoon from AO3. Say hi, Meg.
Hi, hello. Thank you for
And
having me.
of course, I'm so happy to have you. You are, as I said before we started recording, you're like my dream guest because
Um,
I got into the fandom when it was really, really, really small, and I remember reading your fics when there was like 2 pages of Kingdon on AO3. And
yeah.
like reading all of those, and I've wanted to talk to you ever since. And so I'm going to start. I want to ask you how you got into Kingdon and like how you found yourself here.
Um, I just kind of picked it. I chose it. It was early enough on that I started watching it when it was before the drug reveal, I remember, because I remember
Yep.
reacting to that with everyone else. Everybody seemed to be talking about it, like in my real life. And
Yeah.
my cousin is also an ER physician
Oh,
in real
cool.
life too. So like it was a conversation piece pretty much everywhere I went. So I started watching it, I think with my roommate at first. So it wasn't something that I was thinking about in these terms, like fandom terms.
Yeah.
But then the drug reveal happened, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting now." Because I liked these two kind of more than anything else, but it didn't occur to me until that I was like, "Oh, now this is interesting," and so I just kind of decided I was going to get into it, and I just made it happen. I think I I think there are like two main approaches to fandom, not only two, but like the main two. And the first one is when you really, really enjoy something, you like what you're seeing. And when it's over, you want more of that thing, whether it's, the book itself or the show itself or a particular character or a particular like dynamic. And that's the driving force that then leads you to open up Twitter or AO3 or whatever. And then the second kind, which is the kind that I am almost exclusively doing all the time, is the one where you're watching something and you're like, oh, I like this, but what if it was different?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
seeing, you like it, but you're using it as like a prompt. And so I think that's where the transformative comes from, and
Yeah, totally.
transformative
Yeah. Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
Affirmation versus transformative fandom, where affirmation, it's like you're collecting figures, you're putting posters on your wall, you're like, and then transformative is taking it, and that's the whole fanfic side of things, and what
yeah,
I feel like both of us are probably pretty engaged in, because I'm doing the podcast
yeah,
of taking stuff and making it your own and messing with these guys. Yeah,
yeah.
that's very similar to my origin with Kingdon too. I think that I've talked about this before, so I'll be incredibly brief, but I have chronic pain. I was like laid up in bed for like months, and I was having all these family issues going on, and I was just struggling. And I started watching The Pit because I was anticipating I would probably wind up needing some medical procedures, and I was like, oh, I'll get used to it and like get over all my fears, and I like medical stuff fine. I'm nerdy, I'm autistic, I can get into this. And
Yeah.
then I started watching it, and I also started watching before the drug reveal. So when I started watching, 5 episodes were out. And I was on Tumblr for Sid Carmi and was still pretty active in that fandom. So I was seeing some Pit stuff on Tumblr, but not a lot, and like wasn't actively engaged in it. I think I reblogged like a couple Kingdon gift sets in the early days, but I wasn't like into it. I was more on Reddit, like posting and talking with those people, which is so embarrassing in hindsight because they hate us over there. And
Thank
I
you. Thank you.
yeah, but I would like talk with them, and again talking up into like before the drug reveal. I remember those weeks leading up being like, oh my god, they're gonna do it. And the episode where it finally happened, I was really in denial. But it was, and then I got into Kingdon, started reading. I say that the fanfic Divine Pity in a Boat made me a shipper. That is, I just love fan fiction. I've been reading it since I was like 10, 11, 12. Um,
Mhm.
and I was like, I wonder what is out there for them. I wonder if people are writing it. And I went on there. I read Two Player, and I read Divine Pity in a Boat. And I was like, so Divine Pity in a Boat is the fic I wreck the most because it brought me here. And I was like, oh my God, I love these guys. And then, found myself here.
It's that one's really great. I can never say her username correctly, and maybe I shouldn't because she anonymized it.
Yeah, she
But I
did.
but I but I know the author, and she's an old school fan like me, and she's just so good. She's so good.
I feel like the
So
thing
I
that made me realize I wanted to be a part of it was a lot of the big fics are by more old school fanfic authors who, if you go to your, like, for example, I've been on your AO3 page, you have a lot of different, you've been writing for a bunch of different fandoms for a while. And you can go on and be like, these are people who write. Like, there are people who I feel like in fandom who just are incredibly talented. And when they set their eye on a new thing, I know it's probably going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, I would agree with you. That's kind of how I found new things for a long time. I would just be following like the really big, incredible people that I had
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
following for a
Yeah.
long time. Like, Naomi Novik, for example,
Yep.
was one of my
Yeah.
favorites. And
Yep.
now
Yep.
she's
Yep.
Naomi Novik.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, and I remember talking about this with the author of Divine Pity and also other friends at the
Yeah.
time. I was like, this, I'm going to sound like such an old person, but like it feels like the old days again, because it had been a long time since I had really gotten into something that was current and
Hmm.
popular. I usually get into things like 10 years late,
Yep. Same.
But it
Yeah.
was like you felt so giddy and things were moving so quickly and everyone was having such a good time and bouncing ideas off each other and jokes, and it was I really needed it too at the time.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a dreary summer for me also.
Same, yeah. I feel like looking back on it, it's interesting because a lot of the fans I'm friends with and know now are post season two fans. Two of my closest friends are like watched it and then got into it and became really active in the fandom and made most of their content while season two was airing. And that's when I really got into it and made my relationships. But I had watched all of season one and been into it and had been reading fic leading up to it. And it's really cool because you guys, like, in my opinion, like really built the house we now occupy. And I don't know, my fandom experience was being really involved in, like, as a kid I liked Harry Potter, which I mean, didn't we all? And
Yeah.
but like was really young, and then Riverdale, Sid Carmi, Succession is like one of my biggest special interests, but that fandom was not, it never was a type of situation where you felt like you were in like a real environment where there were people who were friends and were publicly friends and you were engaging with these different people. There weren't groups to engage with. The Bear kind of had that, but there was a lot of racism and a lot of infighting, and a lot of the people I was friends with left because of it. And also just
Mhm.
the show is bad now, so we all
Yeah.
left. But I feel like, at least for me, like being 20 and pretty young on the internet, I have always looked up to larger fan communities and wanted to be a part of them and make friends and have that type of community, which is like a big driving force behind starting the podcast. And I have made those friends, and I do continue to have those relationships, including with people I look up to. Like, I had Audrey on last week, and getting to talk to her felt like such a big deal because I really look up to her and think her art is incredible, and became
Yeah.
a fan of her really early on. Talking to you is like a dream come true. There
Oh,
are plenty of people I've spoken to who like the pod or have like read my fic because of it, who I'm a big fan of, and it's very cool to get to talk to them and talk to people who've been doing this so much longer than I have, and I don't know, platform them, if that makes any sense. Like, I
yeah.
am a big nerd about fandom history and think that what's happening with Kingdon is incredibly special, and it reminds me a lot of like the X-Files and these other fandoms where
Yeah,
like
it does.
there is an entire section of fandom that is not even really about the show. It's about like the specific ship, and it winds up being a little more cuddly and softer and a better, more communal place. I'm going to compare us to Hermione, even though we're better than Hermione. And but similar, of like, there is a big community around that's pretty divorced from the larger Harry Potter fandom, which is good because fuck Harry Potter.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the direction that it's been moving for quite some time anyway, and especially with a show like the Pit, where the plot is just a shift, one
Yeah.
shift. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like the X-Files, which the X-Files, that plot was kind of nonsensical anyway.
Yep. Yep.
But there's no, like, the multi-season stuff that we're dealing with is like very interpersonal. It's just,
Yeah.
is will Langdon get clean? Are Langdon and Santos ever gonna make up? Etc. Will Robby ever go to therapy?
Probably not.
Yeah. So, I mean, naturally, I think we separate into these little enclaves of people who like Robby and they ship him with Whitaker or Abbott, and then you
Yeah.
have like Santos fans, and but also like the siloing of fandom that's been happening for so long. I think that tends to happen anyway. I mean, like when you are in a fandom on Twitter, for example, completely different experience than when you stick to just AO3 and Tumblr or like
Yeah.
your Discord chat. It's just, yeah, it didn't used to be like that.
No, it didn't.
But yeah, it is. It is now. So
Well, wait, it used to be, I mean, I spent some time on, I'll shout them out because I love them. More than that.net. It's a Jim and Pam. I used to lie about my age on there. They all thought I was in college. I was not. It was a Jim and Pam exclusive fanfic
I
archive, and it.
remember that. I remember that website. Yes, I
Oh my
actually,
God, I've
yeah,
never met another more than that in real life. It was
yeah.
amazing.
It was very
There's so
fun.
much good work there.
Yeah.
I got really into it in like 2020 and was in the Discord and like talked to everybody, and it had this like big revival because of Office Ladies, and there was a very specific fanfic author whose name I can't remember, but she had come in and had like joined what at the time was pretty insular. It was just like people from the original days left and had written all this incredible work, and everyone was like really excited and things were back, and it felt so cool. And I think that the Ambulance Bay Discord server, which is like the Kingdon Discord server, reminds me a lot of that. It's like it's like 20 people who talk there every day, but we're talking there every day.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. I was really afraid. The reason I started the podcast when I did is I was nervous about momentum being lost because, like you're saying, it's been growing since day one, and it kind of did slow down a little bit after season one, but the momentum has not slowed, which is interesting because other that's similar with like other communities too, just even on Tumblr. Like I've a lot of the Santos people and the people who are in the pit for like just shipping Yuri, which is awesome. I love that that's part of this fandom, is
Hmm.
still growing. Huckle Robbie is having a thing, but it's still very
Hmm.
much there. And it's interesting to peek into all these different enclaves and like kind of, dip your toe in and see that different things are happening and different conversations are happening while
Hmm.
Kingdon is so steadily growing and kind of becoming a force. Because even if we're pretty siloed, the Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, and then AO3 wind up connecting because a lot of people are on all platforms. And at least for me, being able to peep in through the Discord server, I am able to follow everyone on all these different platforms and see that there's kind of a continuous narrative that's being built. At
Yeah.
least, which is very different than, for example, I feel like if I'm looking at Huckle Robbie on Twitter versus Huckle Robbie on Tumblr, completely different worlds of
Yeah.
like what people are talking about and what they're interested in.
Yes. I'm actually just very happy that Jim Pam site is still around. I had no idea The Office was still going as a fandom. That's, I mean, like,
It is,
good for
yeah.
you.
I mean,
It's been around for a long time. I remember I got it banned at my high school on my high school Wi-Fi because I was reading porn during my like study hall.
you're my
And so
hero. You're my
I would,
hero.
yeah, like
You're
events.
a national hero.
I would like one by one, they would like ban every website I would visit. So I would have like a very narrow window of time that I could log on and do that during school hours.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, that was
I
one
went
of
to all
them.
girls Catholic school and I was a bad student. I just was. But I would sit on my school iPad and I had a class that was theology, and I decided that that class was the class for reading fan fiction, and I would
Hmm.
download AO3 on my home Wi-Fi onto the Books app, and I would sit there and I would look like I was reading a novel, but in reality I was at times I was reading smut in Catholic school.
Can
And then
I
I
tell you what I used to do? Because this will be very funny to other
Yes,
people
please. Oh my
my
God,
age.
please. Yes.
So I didn't have internet for a long time growing up, and I lived in a very small town, a rural area. So it was even back then when it was kind of more expensive. Like now, it's kind of affordable. Everybody has internet
Yeah, yeah.
access pretty much. It was more expensive then, but then it was even more expensive for us because we lived in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah.
my dad would like periodically, sign up for something when he needed it,
Yeah.
but I didn't have like steady internet access. And so I, of course, chose a hobby where the internet is required, of course. So I would go to my dad's office and I would have like an hour or an hour and a half, and I would like feverishly like copy and paste, because this was before AO3. Of course, you
Yep.
couldn't download
Yep.
anything.
Nope.
Into everything I found that even looked remotely interesting, I would copy and paste it all into Word documents, and then I would save the Word documents on floppy disks
Oh
and
my
then
God.
take them home and put them onto my computer, my internetless computer, and then I could read at my leisure. And I did that for a long time, like, from the time when I first discovered it when I was like 12 or so, until we got like steady internet access when I was like 17, 18, something like
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Again, Hero. I've heard that I have like a lot of almost all of my fandom friends until the pit what would be like decades older than me. And so I've heard a lot of stories like that, and every time I just want to like salute you guys. That's the fucking best. No, I discovered I was 10 years old. I was given a $50 Kindle Fire HD tablet by my parents who were hippies and for
Uh-huh.
my 10th birthday, and they were like, "You can read books on this." And they handed it to me. And the first thing I did is I went on Bing and I Googled Ron and Hermione pregnant, and I have never been normal since. I sat there, I would sit there on I didn't know about AO3. I knew about AO3, but I didn't know how to like get into it. And I was scared of it. So I didn't know how to search anything. So I would just, again, type into Bing, and then eventually I downloaded like a torrent Google app so I could like get to Google through Bing. It was very strange because I bricked my Bing from having too many tabs open on this like horrible fucking tablet that had no storage. And the background was, you were guessing it, Photoshop of Ron and Hermione getting married.
Uh-huh.
I had so many friends growing up, and I would sit there and I would just read it, and I didn't know how to search, so I would just search it up, and I thought that all the results on Google were all the fanfic that was out there. So like I would
Mm.
just like be on like page like 25 of Google looking at fanfic. Um
Yeah.
and then I eventually found AO3 like late middle school, and I've been weird ever since. I think I got like my invite when I was 14, and I made my AO3 account because I needed a place to back up my More Than That fanfic because I was writing on More Than That.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
all of my like original, so horrifically written, it's not even funny. Like, I'm not a great writer now, but back then it was horrific. Fic
Yeah. I
was
mean,
what's on
junior
there.
high stuff. Yeah. You gotta do it. You gotta get through that phase, but you don't like to read it later on
you
and
you
go
have
back and
to have
revisit.
no
Yeah.
paragraph breaks and horrific grammar and have a very, very nice admin of the website you're using tell you that, hey, maybe you should use spell check. But I remember being like, I'm gonna get famous, which was very funny of me. And then like but it's funny too because I'm only 20, but there are very much things where I'm like, this is not my domain. Like there are people. I feel weird because two people I know in real life, I'm like old in fandom because I've been doing it so much longer than they have. A lot of people I know got into fandom in high school, and by the time I was in junior high, I was like, this is not my first rodeo, you guys. Like, I know what's going on. And
Mhm.
I just get me into trouble now because I'll be like, they're not going to go canon about certain things. Where I'm like, I've done this before. This isn't how this works. And they're like, what are you talking about? Have hope. And I'm like, it's not a psyop, guys. I swear to God, it's just poor writing. It's always been poor writing. I do want to
Yeah.
ask you, like, when did you first start writing fanfic? So you were putting things on floppy disks like the hero you are, but when did you start like writing?
Well, I mean, I was really young, and I kind of stumbled upon it the same way you did, like not really knowing what it was at first. And but the difference was this was like early internet days,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so you, what I would do, I do remember this, how I first found it, is my friends and we were really into the TV show Charmed. I don't know if you've ever
Yes.
seen it.
Yes.
It's
I know
really
Charmed.
campy.
Yes.
Yeah, so we would like role play at recess, being the different sisters, and we would have these like really intense. It was almost like D&D, but for Charmed. Like we would
Yep.
just kind of like collaboratively write new Charmed adventures, like fan fiction, but like in a
Yeah.
group
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah.
And so to do that, I would go online and search for the transcripts of the episodes because again,
Oh
we
wow.
couldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
like just watch it whenever we wanted. We had to
Mm-hmm.
wait for it to like be on television, which it never was.
Yep.
And in the process of looking for transcripts, I stumbled across, I think I was looking for something to do with Angel, the TV show Angel, the spinoff
Yep.
of Buffy.
Yep. You have no
And I
about Angel.
found, and I, yeah, I found this very strange website. It was like a GeoCities thing for some writer, and they had like a manipulation, a Photoshop manipulation of Fred and Angel, like in a bed together, basically. And I
Yep.
remember looking at it, and I was like, "When did this happen on the show?" I was like, "What the hell is this?" And I started reading some of it, and there, it's not like they give you like an explanation of what they're doing. They're just,
No.
they present it like, oh, Fred and Angel do this together.
Yep.
And so I was just fascinated, and so I kept looking, and then I eventually kind of figured out what was happening and what people were doing, and I thought it was great. And so I started doing it also because writing has been something that I've been doing my entire life. I mean, my brother had music and I had writing and reading. That was like
Yep.
our things, our lifelong passions,
That's like my
And so,
sister and I've been writing since for as long as I can remember. Just just for fun. And then
Yeah.
finding fanfic felt like a very natural progression of that, especially like being someone with special interest. It made a lot of sense that I would just be writing all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And it was accessible, and it was very low stakes, and people were nice to you, which I think was really important. It's kind of built into the culture that you're not going to be like bitchy to new people, or
Hmm.
it's really kind of the perfect environment for a young kid to sort of figure out their voice and what kind of writer they want to be, and if they want to write at all. Yeah, I mean, it was just like a perfect playground. And then, as I got older and I started getting into like professional writing circles, and starting my career and going to college and all of that, it just became more of a hobby, like stress outlet.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to find this kind of environment in real life. I mean, like professional writers, people who write short stories, novels, they have writing groups, of course, they have
Hmm.
communities, but it's so different. It's not like it is in fandom, because you're still an advocate for your own work. You're all
Hmm.
creating different things. So there can be a lot of like collaboration and inspiration between different writers in those spaces, but in fandom you're all playing with the same writing prompts, you know?
Yeah, it's
Um,
the same characters, it's the same sandbox.
yeah. So it's just this like free for all, and when it's really good, and a fandom is not like falling apart at the seams with arguing and back and forth and drama. If it's good and it's functional and it's a healthy community, it is so freeing and so fun because it's just this like gleeful sense of play, just pure creativity, just, unrestrained. You could do whatever you
Yeah.
want, you can write about whatever you want. And that is, I think, in my experience, very, very rare to find
Yeah.
in the world. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I stuck with it for so long. And, if I wanted to write novels, I'd be writing novels. I'm not, maybe one
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Um, but I need something, like I always have to be working on something. And so this has always been a really good, like, I don't know, not crutch, but like
Outlet,
something,
like place to go, and yeah, yeah, yeah.
outlet, yeah, to
Yeah.
lean on, when I don't have anything really really creative going on in my real life. So
I feel that so deeply. I'm raised by artists, and I've grown up going to art shows and art camps, and it was really understood and expected that everyone in my family would be creative and create things. And I definitely do that. I have this podcast. I've been writing fanfic for fucking ever now, and just like doing those things. I've made a lot of other art. But I feel like for me at least, fandom has always been the place where I know it's going to be looked at. I know it's going to be cared for in some way, and I know I'm very unlikely to receive hate unless it gets so popular it's being pushed out to the people who do not have that etiquette. Like I think
yeah,
that there's been a lot of conversations about like fandom etiquette, and when you talk about it so eloquently, but you're talking about these great places, and I'm like, oh God, I feel like, at least for me in my experience, that's what Kingdon feels like to me versus other spaces I've been in, where new people are able to come in. I talked about this with Audrey about how Audrey is obviously creating fan art at a level that very few people are, as she's a professional illustrator, and making work that is stunning and absolutely incredible and getting all this love, and it deserves it. And just like how I feel like you and several other writers are writing at levels that a lot of us aren't, just someone who's had so much experience and is lending their talent to us. And I was talking about how, at least for me, that stuff is so incredible and I love it, but the lifeblood is the 12-year-old making absolute garbage. Just
yeah,
something that's like unreadable, someone who doesn't know anything about anatomy, someone who's drawing in their sketchbook in between class. That is the lifeblood of fandom, because those are the people who, if we give them enough support and if they stick around long enough, are going to be the people who are like, I've been doing this for 15 years and I care about it. And I talked about that, and someone wound up posting in one of our groups this like really beautiful sketchbook drawing and was like, I was inspired to post because you said, I want to see more pictures of people's sketchbooks. I want to see more amateur work. And I was like, I'm so happy you're sharing that. And I wound up like, I cried. I was like, I'm so fucking happy you're here,
that's
because
lovely.
yeah, like there's a certain level of impact that I feel like, or even just, I remember posting my first fic and someone who is such a bigger deal than me commenting and being like, I have to keep going. I want, like, chasing that feeling and that like gratification, that joy. It's just such a big deal. I don't know. Or maybe I do know. And I think that Kingdom's interesting because it's attracting a very specific type of person. There's a lot of
Mhm.
fandoms. It's attracting older fans, which I'm so grateful for, who I think are able to just simply with maturity build a better community than a bunch of teenagers because you're less like it's like that joke where it's like your Twitter mutual who was arguing about pedophilia is really into yogurt 10 years later because you've just grown up and you realize that like it's
Yeah.
actually not that serious. I have a question for you too about like the wider Kingdon fandom, which is obviously you've been incredibly influential. How do you feel about that? Like has this happened
Uh,
before? Are you just like I have no idea how I would feel if I was going back and reading fic and there's just especially in those early days there are so many like I remember reading it there are so many tropes that started so fast and so quickly that have now almost they feel like they're canon. Some of them have become canon. For example, him treating her when she's injured and like the Becca of it all. But carpooling and things like that started really early, and a lot of those early writers, that you included, obviously, kind of again like built the foundation. How do you feel about that?
Oh, it's very strange. No, I don't think no, I've never had this level of visibility before, I don't
Yeah.
think. I've been around a long time and I've had stuff that has gotten popular. So it's not like a completely new experience, but like what's different about this is that non-fandom people are talking about it and noticing,
Yeah.
in the season one, I think it was like after it ended and the articles started to come out and
Yep.
that freaked me out.
I know what article you're talking about too.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I was so fucking pissed when that came out. Oh.
In terms of how I feel about it, I mean, I'm very I feel very honored and touched by a lot of the things that people send me and say about my writing, and they DM me all the time. I really don't want to be cynical, and I don't want to treat this like it's a influencing platform. you know
Yeah.
I don't want to be like giving public statements on things. And I just want to be authentic with people and I want to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
conversations. And so sometimes I can tell that kind of gets in the way of that. And I don't like that. But that's nobody's
Yeah.
fault. That's just kind of like the nature of the beast, really.
Yeah.
So I just try to keep it real. I feel very honored that my writing has a wider reach now and people love it so much and are taking inspiration from it. I think that's really cool. And I would encourage anybody who's listening who writes to steal whatever you'd like to steal from me and write your own version of it. Nothing I have is like copyrighted, really. You can take
No.
whatever you like and do your own thing. And that's because it's not you everybody kind of brings their own different experience to the table, and you're going to write like three different people could write the same idea and have it come out completely different,
They
and that's
have.
yeah. And I mean, that's essentially what tropes are, but like the more specific you get, the cooler I think it is. One idea I've had for a long time, and I have never actually gotten it off the ground, is sort of like a writing event where you
Hmm.
get a group of writers together and you give them a very specific plot, like not just a trope, like coffee shop, whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like a very specific plot, like for example, Mel accidentally gets pregnant right after season 2, you know,
God,
and then
please.
yeah, since pregnancy is like a topic of conversation lately, and then
Yeah.
they all write their own version of it, and they're not allowed to talk to each other while they do
Oh
it.
God.
And then at the end, you get like 4, 5, 6 versions of the same very specific plot, and
Yeah.
I want to see kind of how all these people do it. I
Yeah.
think that would be really fun. I've never actually gotten off my ass to actually do that, but
Yeah. Going off of that, it's really cool in the Discord. People will be talking about their views of things, and a lot of the tropes are like they're a little bit more again like very like wide net, but it is cool to see people be like, well, for my accidental pregnancy, I'm doing it this way, and I'm doing it this way, and I'm doing it that way. Because there's really only so many ways things can, especially if you're going to stay canon compliant, that the cookie can crumble. But it's just so interesting. I also just lose my mind seeing the different ideas people come up with,
yeah.
but also talking about being cynical, this is the most visible I've ever been in a fandom, and I would say I'm not nearly as visible as you are, just because you've had, again, outside of the fandom and public scrutiny, and I am very much just within Kingdon visible. But it is kind of crazy to have people speaking to you about your work and talking to you about it. I was talking about this with Allison, one of my best friends. I was telling her, like, I called what I was doing for so long as posting into the void. I would make stuff and it would get, no one would read it or no one would look at it, and it just existed. And I had to become okay with that. Like, that's the only reason I'm able to put myself out there like this at all, because I got really comfortable with knowing that like 6 people were going to read the fanfic I spent weeks on, because it just wasn't what people wanted to read, or it wasn't popular. It was in a community that wasn't really visible and getting a lot of traction. It just was going to exist online and sit there forever, unviewed and unwanted. And then, so when I started the podcast, I was like, well, this is either going to go well or it's going to go horrible. And either way, I'm going to keep doing it. And it's been going, in my opinion, way better than I ever expected. I never thought anyone would want to, I thought getting guests would be impossible. I thought that getting listeners would be impossible. I thought no one would fucking care. I thought it'd be too niche. And just even being, it's still pretty niche. And even being where I am now, I'm still like, oh shit, this is really like, it's kind of crazy to look around and be like, this stuff has legs. This is going to go somewhere. And it's at a certain point, I'm not going to be able to control where it goes. This is kind of scary. So I really relate to that. I also, again, talking about having a more popular fanfic, it's scary. It's fucking crazy it's crazy to have people who you have no contact with talking about you without tagging you. Because that's happened a couple times to the podcast where I've been sent posts that a person I do not know has been posting about me, and I was completely unaware of it. And that's really trippy. And ooh.
Yes,
I love it, but it's trippy.
Yeah, I had to like ask people to stop sending me screenshots of Twitter eventually, because it was just so strange. And TikTok is worse. Like someone sent me a TikTok where they were talking about something I wrote, and it was very nice. It wasn't like she was shit talking me. Can I curse?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, you can curse. I curse all the
earlier.
time.
Okay,
you have to curse.
Good.
It's part of it.
But it was just very surreal, because it was like a real person, and it was like her full face and her government name and everything. I was like, it's this feeling of, when you sneak out of the house during the junior high sleepover and all your friends are like going crazy in the field, or, drinking or whatever. And you're like, you guys, like, we're going to get in trouble. Like, let's go back. That's the feeling that I get. And, I again, it's a lot of it, especially with this situation. Sometimes there's a correlation with talent, but often there isn't. I have plenty of self-confidence in myself, and I know that I'm pretty good. I definitely don't think I'm any like, James Joyce wonderkind.
No,
I have plenty of like flaws and things. It's really kind of like timing and luck, and posting the things that everybody wants to read at the right time. Yeah,
I think that when I look at your work and a lot of work that's foundational to fandoms, you are an incredibly talented writer. I will be the first and loudest to say that if I have to be. You are incredibly talented. I've read most of your work. It's very, very good. It's incredibly high quality fanfic. And also, you happened to post when there was like 4 episodes of the show, and a lot of people sort by kudos and hits. And so if you are the first person, that's how my fanfic got popular. I was the only person writing a in-demand trope at a time when the show was having a little boost. That's the only fucking reason it got a bunch of reads. It's not because I'm super talented. For the work to have legs, it has to be quality. But again, like you're saying, it's the luck. So I can understand the imposter syndrome, dude. The imposter syndrome.
Yeah. But I also I don't want to sound ungrateful. I definitely don't want to be like, oh, being popular is so difficult. It is like very. I do feel very, very touched, and I also want people to talk to me. If you have a question or you want to talk about something, please just talk to me. I'd much rather you like just DM me than like tweet about me without telling me, or something like that.
Hard agree. I've pretty much everyone up until the podcast, anyone who's seen like I'm going to air quotes fan of mine, I immediately befriended, because I was like, I feel uncomfortable with you enjoying my work and me not being able to talk to you about it. And I just want someone to talk. I just want to talk about my work. I just want to talk about what I'm doing or what I'm making with people. And basically up until the podcast, when it's no longer feasible for me to do that, or like some listeners aren't talking to me or speaking about it all online and I have no access to them. But I totally get what you're saying. I also think that there's a feeling within fandom that the bigger authors are too good for you and they're not going to want to talk to you. And I feel like that kind of spans from the culture of, I'm going to call it out, Harry Potter, and how
Yeah.
a lot of those authors now are published authors or became such recluses due to hate that I get nervous. I don't want to bother you guys. I feel like, oh, this probably happened on accident or you weren't expecting it to happen. And unless I'm seeing someone be super active, I feel weird reaching out because I'm like, I don't want to spook the horse. I don't want to bother them. I want them to continue to make their work. So I was really excited when I was able to reach out to you and actually talk to you because you're very approachable and very nice.
Thank you. I mean, I try to be. I mean, inevitably there are people who aren't, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of has their own approach and their own reasons for doing this, but I'm doing this for community reasons. I would like to be friends. I would like to talk about things. I would like to have fun and relax. I don't want to be, I hope I'm not intimidating. I mean, if you met me in person, you would not be intimidated. I'm
Oh,
a
real?
woman. I'm a woman in her 30s, and I live with my dad, and I have adult braces. So there's absolutely nothing about me that is intimidating at all, other than maybe like I curse a lot. I guess that could be intimidating to some
That's
people,
so
but yeah.
I have never felt more seen by another person, dude. I think it's really fun. I've had some people be like, "Oh my God, thank you for," like, get like really excited in my DMs, and then I respond and I don't know how to, like, I feel like I come across almost too professional because I don't know how to be like, I am a 20-year-old girl who lives with her family and works at a hospital and is so painfully awkward and dorky in real life and like fully like talks to a microphone alone in her room quite often as her hobby and like wears a Glee t-shirt most days of the week to work. I have like awkwardly dyed hair. I'm not this some like interesting person. I just happen to know how to work a microphone. Like it just I feel like a lot of fandom people, you need to understand, like, we just have lives. We're just normal people walking amongst you. We're not scary, I promise. And I feel like the big thing I've wanted to pull away from this is just that when I was creating things that no one was looking, that to me had the same amount of value as when I'm making things that people are interacting with and are engaging with. And the work that you're doing that no one's looking at and the creativity you're making has just as much value. And if you are making things you're passionate about, you should feel proud of yourself. And I just want to encourage, I feel like a need to preserve fandom spaces and keep them the places I grew up and what like kind of raised me and kept me going, especially. And I think that I've watched people have that kind of lighting up experience in real life talking about things. A lot of the time it's media because I'm speaking to people who are stuck in the hospital and the only time that they're happy during the interaction is when they're talking about the fact that their favorite show is on the basic cable that we give all of our patients, or they're playing a video game. Oh, you like this video game? Or I've had plenty of patients with tattoo sleeves covered in like nerdy stuff and talking to them. And then also like my drive to want to do this and be creative is definitely an escape and also a response to spending time with people who are having a really hard time and sitting with them in those moments and, you know,
Yeah.
having that empathy. And I got into healthcare because of the pit. I feel like a very deep like thankfulness to it almost because it completely saved and changed my life and gave me a career path and a purpose in a big way, both here, like both in healthcare and also here, and friends. We did
Yeah.
that fan project for, I don't know if you knew about this, there's a fan project for Patrick Ball where we all wrote postcards. It was mainly concentrated on TikTok and Instagram. A fan named Julia, who I love, she's great. She's a whole face, whole name person on the internet. She's very brave, and
Yeah.
she met Patrick twice, stage touring for Becky Shaw, and gave him postcards, and I wrote my postcard to him, which did
Oh,
not
that's
mention the
nice.
podcast. If anyone's wondering, I didn't mention the podcast. I don't want him to know about this, but I
Yeah.
did write to him. I was like, I made a lot of friends when I got into healthcare through this. Like, it's thank you very much for what you do and your work. But yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
also thank
No, I
you. I
didn't know
wonder.
about that. I mean, I knew about like the bracelets that everybody makes for him, but
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't hear about postcards. That's very cool. That reminds me,
yeah.
I mean, we've been doing that forever in fandom. There was a Veronica Mars when that show was airing.
Yes. Yep.
There was a big campaign because it was constantly in danger of getting canceled. And so I think it was flowers. We sent flowers to the studio. I don't know what we thought we were going to do with this, but I think it was flowers, and it was like a little note, like please keep going, you know. And
Yeah.
we raised a lot of money to do that because I think we did it more than once, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm surprised. I would not be surprised if in a year from now the Kingdom fandom is doing like charity drives and stuff. We are like the fan events we're doing and projects. It's really fucking cool that the show's been off the air for a few months, and I'm sure you know this. Normally, things have started to wind down. People have packed up shop, or they're moving on to things that are currently airing, and you're getting content for. And instead, we are doing Kingdon Week next week, which like we're so hyped about. I'm a admin in the Kingdon Nation group on Tumblr, so we had to like plan for it, and like there's been talks about
Mm-hmm.
like how we're gonna manage what we assume will be a large influx of postings. People have been talking about it there. And then we have the microfic challenge in July. There's been other stuff from like even before I was super active. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting to be visible. I don't know. It's interesting to be visible too because the Pit fandom post season 2, all of those articles were coming out, and I was just the feeling I always have because I was a Sid Carmi before this, and we get so much shit from non-fandom people and from like full-on articles about how we're stupid. And
Yeah.
I will it's so fun. I was just waiting patiently for them to stop because it's just a passing fleet of it's just a moment in culture, and then everyone kind of moves on, and they'll probably come back and we'll get some more hate for it, and there'll be more articles about how everyone's stupid if you like things, and then they'll disappear, and what's left is a group of predominantly wonderful women who are talking about these two doctors who are weird about each other and creating community and support. I had like my official graduation from my phlebotomy program, and I got to celebrate with all my fandom friends. It was fucking awesome. Like there's real legs here, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
especially like in the age of capitalism where we're making I don't know, I think that people who work for these studios don't realize just how much money we make them, despite the fact that we can't ever profit off of any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it weren't for us, you wouldn't win Emmys, dude. No one would be watching your fucking show. Noah Wiley, it is actually in your best interest for Kingdom to kiss. It would make a lot of sense narratively. It would, though.
Yeah,
Kind of like
I agree.
kind of taking a left turn and just like getting back to our weird doctors. Do you have a favorite fic you've written? Because I have one.
um, I don't know. I think once I finish something, I kind of put it aside. I move on and I stop thinking about it as much. Probably the one that I enjoyed, or not enjoyed, the one that is most important to me, I'll say, is the abortion story. Um,
Yeah, such a good fic, dude.
Thank
Yeah,
you. It was
yeah,
really cathartic to write for a lot of reasons I won't get into.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but it was, yeah, it was a cathartic experience. And I actually like sat down when I sat down to write that. I was trying initially I was going to like I'm going to write a story where she gets knocked up and they keep it. And
Hmm.
but then the more I wrote it out and kind of like puzzled it out in my head, I was like, no, this is something different.
Yeah.
And then it became more about like the intimacy of being in pain with someone and
Hmm.
someone sitting with you through something difficult. That's
Yeah.
something that, it's a type of intimacy that I was thinking about a lot for a lot of in real life reasons at the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, yeah, and I think it came out well.
I
And
loved
I
I
hope
will
it
share
was.
that
So
whenever I like an author, I just read everything they've ever written. I read that fic. I love pregnancy trope. I used to be really embarrassed about it. Now I'm just open about it. Who fucking cares? We're all being weird on the internet. Who cares? But like I like pregnancy trope. It's like the first thing I read whenever I join a new fandom. Um and I have chronic pain, and I read it, and I read all the tags, and I knew going into it what it was going to be. And there's a Sid Carmi fic where Sid gets an abortion, and I think it's really, I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's very beautiful and really well written, and I have read it multiple times. And one of the notes at the end was just pretty simply like, sometimes the happy ending is that you made this choice about your body and you get to continue to live, and like this is the happy ending. And when I read that fic, and specifically like Mel sitting in pain with it, I remember crying and just like really sitting with it, because you so perfectly captured a feeling I was chasing at the time, of someone to come sit with me in my suffering, which I didn't have. And I think that as an autistic woman, at least for me, one of the reasons I love Kingdon so much is because I get to read stories where someone like me, who presents like me, who exists in the world like me, is uncomplicatedly loved by an attractive man, and
mhm.
isn't just kind of, a lot of the time people like me on TV get to date someone exactly, they don't get to date the guy who looks like the movie star. They have to, fall
Yeah.
in love with someone who's kind of dorky and probably doesn't treat them super well. Like I think of like Amy and Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. That kind of felt like my future in a very sad way.
Oh no, that is
And
not your
to
future. Oh
and
God,
then to
that
come
show's awful.
I
Sorry,
know, and then
Big Bang
dude, when my
fan.
parents got divorced, all I could do was watch Big Bang Theory. I sat and I watched all of Big Bang Theory, and I never enjoyed a single episode of that shit. It just was the
I
only
did the
thing that I
same
could
thing with
consume.
Yeah, with Bridgerton. It's almost like,
You need bad
or
TV in a dark time.
yeah, yeah, or like, I've talked about this before, so I'm okay with saying this, but my
Yeah.
brother passed away very suddenly a
Yeah.
few years ago.
Oh God.
After that happened, I watched all of ER, and I don't know why, because it was like literally, I mean, something that had happened to us very recently, and it happened in a
Mhm.
hospital.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then my dad would, like, kind of when I was in the thick of it, like the worst of it,
Mhm.
he would walk in and see me watching some episode where this woman's like splayed out on a surgery table, and
Yeah.
and he's like, "Why are you watching this?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but it's helping a little."
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I
a strange thing.
yeah, my parents got I've shared this before, so I'm very comfortable sharing this, but it's like too much. I can change the subject. My parents got divorced. I was 19 years old. I had just started a yoga teacher training program, and I had just recently quit my job, so I had no source of income because I was going to do this yoga program, and I was like going to live off savings. It's gonna be fine, and I'm living at home. And my parents get divorced in a, to me, not sudden way, but very sudden for other family members. And my body just stops working. I lose the ability to walk, and it
Oh,
happens within a week of each other. And I was stuck in bed and going to see surgeons and specialists and struggle and on the phone with insurance and getting all these blood draws and just like really suffering and in pretty intense pain all day. And all I could do was watch The Big Bang Theory. It was the only it like soothed something in my brain. And I
hmm.
played so much Subway Surfers, I became like nationally ranked for a couple days. And like that's all I did. And I watched the whole show, and it was weirdly very therapeutic to watch all these men who hated their wives. It's just really nice. It was just really
Yeah.
soothing to my soul. And then I obviously got into the pit, and the pit became I used to take really long baths. It was like the only time I would get any relief because I have
Uh-huh.
hip issues, and so it's very funny too being 20 years old and using a cane. It's kind of hilarious because
Yeah.
when I was using it at the time, I was like, this is funny. And I would sit in the bath and I would watch the pit, and I remember watching the shooting episodes over and over and over and over again, and my mom being like, "What is going on?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"There's just something so soothing about watching these people who know what's going on fix problems because
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
everything's falling apart around me." And then obviously like I learned how to walk again, shout out, and I'm fine now, or like live in pain but I'm pretty okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I don't know, at the time I remember too, like especially with fanfic, I kind of needed to read fanfic about doctors who kind of had their shit together. I don't know, I think that like I read that fic, and then my favorite fic by yours, I love Baby I'm Your Number One Fan. I think it's adorable and hilarious.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
love how I love Abby in that. She's in it for like 4 sentences, and I love her so much in it, and I love how raw it is. And then I'm also a Damn the Torpedoes truther. I fucking love that fic. I
Oh
love a
yeah.
fic.
Yeah.
I love a fic where Frank. I think that obviously, I'm sure you know this, even across your stuff, characterization for Frank especially differs wildly. I think all of our Mels are kind of the same, just because she's like the way she's presented to us, you just kind of know her. And then I think there's also just like a lot of neurodivergent women are in the Kingdon fandom, and
Hmm.
we get her
Well, she's
versus
very guileless. She's very open, and Frank is like
yeah,
the complete opposite. I mean, when we meet
yeah,
him, he's lying constantly. I mean, we don't
yep,
even really meet him until we find out about the drugs. That's when we find out. That's when we really meet this guy, which is
yeah.
another aspect of this combination that I like and that I find interesting. But keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. For me, at least, like reading Kingdon fic and then like reading pre-season 2 and then post-season 2, the Frank is so different. But
Mhm.
in I'm just gonna talk about your fic at you. In Damn the Torpedoes, you have him as kind of being from New Jersey, and he's kind of an asshole, and I love that. I think that there is like a level of Frank being a dick that we're kind of all ignoring, especially post-season 2, where
Yeah.
he's like, he's getting his swag back, and I feel like especially on TikTok, I'll see people be like, "Listen, it's really bad that he was stealing drugs from the hospital. He was hotter," and I'm like, "Yeah." Um, like let's there's a lot of complexity here, but like, yeah. And I think that for me, at least, the thing that a lot of the time the fics that shocked me the most, I've shouted this out in like every episode. There's a fic called Dilute Me Pretty Baby by an author named Do Not Confess, who, shout out, I know you're listening, I love you. That fic is just so incredible. And the thing I love the most about it is that they are talking about the complexities of melding their lives together the whole fucking time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think with Kingdon, all good ships have this. The conflict is baked into the couple. So you don't need to add things in. You can add things in. It's fun when they're jealous. It's fun when they're cheating. It's fun when it's fun when Robby finds out and is pissed. It's fun when things go wrong. And it's fun to read about in fiction. But at least for me, the thing I enjoy the most about it is like Frank is in recovery and either married or freshly divorced with two small children. Mel is responsible for her adult sister and a lot of debt and doesn't really know who she is as an adult. Let's see what happens. Like,
Yeah,
you can kind of, and
yeah,
they're also coworkers, and he is in at least season one, especially ostensibly her superior.
yeah.
I think it's hilarious that they're always like, he's her mentor. Bitch, no, he's not. They are equals day one, dude. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like,
Well,
have you
and
watched the same show I am?
I mean, like show me a hospital where people don't hook up with each other constantly. I mean, that's like, come
My
on. Like,
hospital. Everyone's fucking, dude.
yeah, you spend so much time, especially in that specialization, like emergency medicine. You're
Yeah.
working so much. I mean, my cousin who does it, I mean, he when he started his residency, he disappeared. Like it's like
Yep.
we never saw him again. You know, he's
Mhm.
always working. So who
Yep.
else are you going to hook up with? I mean,
I've
realistically.
talked about this in the infidelity episode. I'm a big Abby girl. I talk about Abby all the time. I have so many thoughts and so many feelings about Abby, probably spanning from my own like family stuff and just like all of that and like how I feel and live as a woman. Abby is very dear to me, which is hilarious because we do not know what she looks like or how she is. We know nothing about her. But I think that like I remember when I was getting into the show and I was watching I was watching a bunch of content about like working in medicine and stuff, and everyone talks about residency, and if you're married, they're like, your marriage survives it. You don't thrive. You shouldn't have children. You shouldn't try to buy a house. You shouldn't try to do anything. You should just survive residency. You have to
Hmm.
survive these years, and you have to love each other enough to know that you need to sacrifice your marriage for 4 years. And it's the fact that he's at the end of it and he's coming out of it with these two small kids and this addiction, and you're watching him and you're like, something went horribly wrong. And I
Hmm.
don't know when, I don't know where, and we kind of still don't, because we know she stayed, and we know they're still married, but we also know he wasn't wearing his ring and wasn't eager to go home at the end of season two.
Yeah,
And I think that like your fic and a lot of other fics capture that really well. Of like, he's kind of the villain in this woman's story. He's not a good
yeah,
husband. I've said this before. He's a really bad husband, and it seems like to be a really good dad. That's super interesting. He's a
yeah,
really good husband to Mel. He's a really bad husband to Abby. Why? What's
yeah.
going on there? What's happening here? There are even some fics that explore like maybe he could do to Mel what he did to Abby, which like, you read and then you're like, let's pretend like this didn't
Oh, I
happen.
don't like it. Yeah,
No, or even like, what if Abby shows up and she's blonde?
yeah.
Ugh. Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I do think that's a really interesting aspect of it. I'm much more to gravitate towards, the Tony Starks over the Steve Rogers is
Yep,
Captain
yep,
Americas.
yep, yep.
And not that there's anything wrong with the Captain Americas, but the Tony Starks are just feel more human to me personally.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I don't want to watch a story about someone who is already good. I want to watch a story about someone trying to be good and sometimes
Yeah.
fucking it up. And it's also like an interesting space to play with creatively because he's a messed up guy.
He's in recovery
and
too, and
yeah, yeah,
he's changing really rapidly in front of our eyes. Season one,
yeah,
season two are night and day.
yeah.
There's a the script for the break room scene, the original break room scene. There's two. The original break room scene script, which I mean, I think I've talked about this with like everybody because it's just this like, when did you become a Kingdon fan? The break room scene is like a very normal conversation we have, or
Uh-huh.
the guy who sprained his ankle.
And
But
I said drugs. That was my that
yeah.
was my moment. The drugs.
No,
The drugs.
listen,
Yeah.
the moment I became a Kingdon shipper is when I went on AO3. So like, we're good. But and I mean arguably like semi with me, Mel, where I was like, these people are married. It's very funny to be an old married couple with somebody you met 6 hours ago. But
Yeah.
his there's that when he gets down on the ground with her, which knowing his back pain is fucking crazy. When he gets down on the ground with her, there's a line in the script that simply says, he's good when he wants to be.
Hmm.
And I think that in season 2, we see his goodness coming out and pouring out into different characters. He lets Whitaker walk all over him, like that type of stuff, which I have my own opinions on. But the fact that like he is good for Mel right away, and that's
Hmm.
so fucking compelling and so interesting. And I think that in your fic, and I'm gonna reference again, "Damn the Torpedoes," is there's a line where they're on the couch and he goes, "I'm a bad man,"
Yeah.
and she is still in fic especially, and again in this one in yours I'm referencing is Mel is very in charge, and I talked about this in the infidelity episode that I think that when I talk about them cheating, I'm not really talking about Frank, I'm talking about Mel, and I'm just
Hmm.
talking about how Mel making the choice to cheat and being selfish for the first time in her life is very powerful and is something I want to see and encourage in fiction, not necessarily like
Yes.
in real life, obviously. But I'm officially anti-cheating unless it's in the fic. But it's it's interesting to see him grapple with that. And I think you do a really good job at that. And a lot of writers do a good job at it because he's a dick to everyone but her. The way he interacts with Yolanda, the way he interacts with Robby, the way he interacts with some patients in season 1, he is not. He's very full of himself and he's kind of in charge. And in season 2, he's been knocked down. They've removed that bravado from him, and
Yes.
it's kind of crazy to watch Mel be like, "You never let me down. You have not hurt me."
Yeah.
I wonder how you feel about season 2 having been so influential on how we view them and their characterizations, because you have like a very, at least in your rating I've noticed that like it can be pretty broad. I feel like again your Frank is very Tony Stark, but like your Frank differs depending on the fic, even
Yes.
if he like kind of, and a lot of people's do, even if he does have that like current running through him. And I'm curious how you think like what about season 2 and just like even like watching it.
You know, I enjoyed it. I think I'm fairly unique as a fan in that I don't. I just kind of do my own thing regardless, especially with a show like this, where I mean, we really have very little information about these
Mhm.
characters. They're, we know the big stuff, we know their names and the psychological shit that we're dealing with. But like, we don't know their lives. We don't know what they wear outside the hospital. We don't know their
Yeah.
families. A lot of them, we don't even know where they're from. And that's a really unique situation for a fandom because it's more like their character sketches.
Hmm.
It's like the show itself is a writing prompt. Um, so it's I kind of take it into I watched it, I enjoyed it, and then I kind of use it as another prompt, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
It's not really like the Bible to me. I don't feel any
Yes.
obligation to like follow what I see. And obviously you take it into account and like there's certain things you like, so of course you keep them, but like it's about it's about having fun for me. So
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I totally get that. I think that, at least for me in my mind, I'm of a very different mind than a lot of people who even just I'm like friends with. Like my two best friends in fandom can easily tell you that we have this fight almost every day. I don't think they're going to go canon. I just don't.
yeah, no, I don't
I
think so either. Yeah.
I don't believe they're going canon, and I think that they're I'm happy for the people who do. They have more hope than I. But I was very, very, very hurt by the way Sid Carmy's were treated. And the final season comes out in like 2 weeks, and I have no plan on watching it. And I was incredibly dedicated to the show. I love this show. The show was everything to me for like a year, and it just isn't anymore because they fucked it up and they ruined it and they made it not fun.
Mhm.
And at least for me, when I'm watching, I'm like, what they give me is so great, and I love it, and I love canon, and I rewatch the show all the time, and like there are characters who I would never read fic about who I adore. Like I love McKay, and I love watching McKay. I love watching Dana. I enjoy watching Robby and Abbott, even though those aren't like where I put my fan interests. But
Mhm.
but I like, and I enjoy that, and obviously we'll watch the show. But I coming like with Kingdon, when I'm getting a Kingdon scene, I'm like, this is so great because it's a springboard. Oh, we know they
Mhm.
stay in the ambulance bay. Oh my God, I can start fantasizing about different things. Like it's to me at least, it's like, okay, this is like brain food. And I am like, well, I don't think they're ever gonna kiss on the show, but they're kissing on AO3, which is enough for me. Like I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to read very, very, very well written work where they're doing all these, where they're like, married or hooking up or having like different different things are going on.
Mhm.
And I'm much more comfortable with that. I don't need my show to validate me.
Yeah.
And I sometimes don't even want them to.
Oh,
I think that like
I rarely do. Because I was into Oliver and Felicity on Arrow,
yep,
and then
yep,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched that show, but they got together fairly early on, and it was kind of like Kingdon.
yeah,
And also, there's a lot of parallels with those two, actually, now that I think about it, because Felicity is a very Mel type character, only she's
hmm
not neurodivergent. She's, you know,
or
and so
openly neurodivergent.
yes, and so you can see the difference in how these two characters are treated because Oliver and Felicity was so popular and they reacted to it in the complete opposite way that
Mhm.
they're doing right now. But yeah, anyway, they got together fairly early on, and it was because of fan pushing, because it was kind of like a out of nowhere dark horse fan favorite thing, and
Yeah,
then it just instantly got so bad, and the show
yep,
was never like Shakespeare. Let's be real.
yeah,
Uh, but it just, I mean, sometimes the worst thing that can happen is for it to actually happen, and
yeah,
then you become constrained by what the show is, because now it's happening on in front of your eyes and on your screen, and everybody's got opinions about it, and it's sometimes sucks, like, you know.
hmm
And what do you do when you get what you want but it fucking sucks? Like, it's, yeah, it's not a fun experience. Yeah, I would
Listen,
rather.
I think that like this is like a big overarching fandom conversation. I've had this with other people. The Pit is not a show where they're going to get any of the characters together. I cannot even believe that they did anything with Mo Abbott. I was shocked. I was so excited, and it was the chocolate before they put us down, like we're old dogs. But it was, it was great. But I struggle with the Pit. I think a lot of the hatred that Kingdons get in particular, because I wonder if you've noticed that the Huckle Robbies don't get nearly as much shit as we do. Um,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
because I mean, it's misogyny. It just is. It's like hating fangirls is just like it. A lot of time it boils down to misogyny. We're not doing anything that sports fans aren't doing. What the fuck are you talking about? It's like I just all these little things you can just like start to get the pattern recognition. And at least for me with the Pit, I was really into Succession. I've been really into I'm really into The Bear. They're very similar shows. Not they win Emmys, they're prestige, but they are still popular media. But they're like for the thinking person. I'm using quotes. Like they're not for like they don't
Yeah.
they're not marketed for teen girls, which are the shows where people kiss. And it pisses me off because I think that there's like a devaluing of romance in our culture, like on media, not in real life where it should be a little bit, taken down a peg and we should start valuing friendship more. But for whatever reason on TV, men and women have to all be friends. And it's weird. It's fucking weird
Yeah.
because you will, especially with Sid Carmi, like I could talk about it forever. The way that they wrote that show, at a certain point the plot stops making sense if it's platonic because they have all these fucking scenes where if you like watch it critically, and like I'm a big believer in like not doing, like I love that people do this but I just can't because I'll go crazy, where if you do like a lot of like minutia of like why were they like this, why were they doing that, and if you read into every choice it can be really easy to be like this isn't as good as I thought it was.
Hmm.
But Sid Karma, you can like there's like some like very surface level things where they're just showing it to you and you're like this doesn't make any fucking sense if they're just friends, you're being weird. And
Was
with Kingdon, like
was Sid a male character at some point before they developed it more? I feel like I read that in an interview or something. Is that true?
probably, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, not I don't know,
I
my
wonder
guess
if
is
that
yes though.
affects I wonder if that affects how they feel about it. But anyway,
Well,
keep going.
it's interesting too because like with Succession, Roman and Jerry are one of the big ships and they're the best, and
Yeah,
the
and that
Succession
was
had a good
organic.
ending, which is that was organic. And one of the ways that that show, the thing I say about Succession, the reason that fandom is so fascinating to me is that the show was too good, and the show was so good that when the show ended, people were like, I can't write a better ending than this, and they closed up shop. No one
Yeah.
was mad about it because they were like, well, Kendall and Stewie got confirmed. Tom and Greg are still together somewhere. Roman and Jerry broke up, but like you can reasonably guess that they might get back together at some point. Like everyone ends the show in a space where like all the ships, Tom and Shiv are still married. You end the show in this like very specific way where you're like, I can super easily, there's no more story to tell. It's
Yeah.
done. You finished it. Meanwhile, with the Pit, it's so short that you're like, well, I want to know about Abby. How did her and Frank meet? I love the fact that we don't like. It's really cool not to know so much. I think like I've had I did a two-part on infidelity, and it was so interesting to hear different people's opinions on it. And I'm like, I want to do a whole Abby episode just because I have so many fucking thoughts on Abby. And like, but I do love how some people will be like, no, I think this is the reason they're married, or this is the reason, or this is the reason. And just getting down to the bare bones of it. But even like with the canon of it all, I just can't see a world where the show there's a certain part where I'm like, I just can't see a world where this show doesn't hurt me. I imagine it will. It already has. Like, all of the things I like in the end are like, fuck you, dude. And I'm like, okay. So I just started to be zen about it, where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I will say, and I say this every time I say they're not going canon, the existence of Robby and Colin's relationship really makes me think otherwise sometimes, especially with the way they're shown in season 2, or
Mm-hmm.
season 1, because there are multiple scenes where Robby and Collins are together, and then they cut to Kingdon together, including scenes like that scene where they go to treat the little boy and like they first met, and
Mm-hmm.
they cross each other, and I'm sure you've seen it gifted 1,000 times, and
Yes.
Robby looks over at Collins, and you're like, huh, I wonder what that, like, this is like some very deliberate cinematic language, wonder what this could mean, especially with the way that Frank's addiction and, in my opinion, later divorce in season 2 are telegraphed to the audience. It can get kind of frustrating, and I think that, at least for me, I've become really, like, chill about it, especially with Patrick Ball and Taylor Dearden doing, I don't read the interviews, I can't,
Whatever
but,
it is
like,
they're doing, I don't know what they're doing.
it's weirder than what Jeremy and Io were doing, because they are being it's because Jeremy and Io from Sid Carmi would just be like, they're not gonna date, and then like
Yeah.
that would be it. Like they don't say anything else, or just like they both need too much therapy. Io and Debbie might make a joke or two, but like that's it,
Yeah, they're
and
just
then
like
they move
not
on.
interested in talking about it at all.
But
They're probably like really annoyed when they get the question. But
they're so annoyed by it, to the point where they've stopped asking. There's been no one asking about it for the season 5 press. No one wants to hear about it anymore. They're like, it's not going to happen. We all know it's not going to happen. But then with Kingdon, I appreciate. So like I have said before, I would never want to meet them. I'm a church and state girl with fandom. Like, it would be super cool to get to like do presence. Like, I guess like I am a Pit fan podcast, and like I'm sure it would be really cool to do stuff, but like I'm not, if I ever met them or talked to them in any official capacity, I would not be like, what are your thoughts on Kingdon? That's not something I would do. Just
yeah,
personally, I don't, I don't want
it's
to be
not.
rejected to my face.
It has nothing to do with them. It's none of their business.
No,
You know.
it is none of their business. It's not. I hated when Supriya was like, "I'm reading fanfic." I was like, "It's not for you. This
Don't do
isn't." It's
that.
like
Yeah.
authors shouldn't be in review spaces. Actors shouldn't be in fan spaces. Not for
Hmm.
you. Unless you're invited, it's not for you. But what's crazy about the Patrick and Taylor interviews is that they'll get on the mic and be like, "Oh, they could never date." Taylor said recently that they have the capacity to be attracted to each other. She'll say things like they'll be like they're soulmates, but they could never date. And you're like, this is weird. You're being weird. What are you talking about?
They
Taylor,
have
like,
they have like actor brain, and I think it's great. It's beautiful.
it
It's
is
like
great.
when
It is
Lady
beautiful.
Gaga does a movie and she does the press tours and she just says the most off the wall shit, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
think she's doing it on purpose because she's a theater kid, and her brain probably does. Probably does believe in what she says, but also at the same time, like that's part of promoting part of promoting what she's promoting. And then these two have the same kind of like theater kid mentality where they get off on a tangent and they start talking, and then they end up somewhere completely wild, and you're like, how did
Yep.
you okay.
Yep. Yep. But
Yeah.
it's what's funny to me is they do all these things, and it was kind of crazy because when they were doing season press for season 2 at the very beginning, and obviously they didn't know people were shipping Kingdon when season 1 was airing and it was starting, and then by the time season 2 comes out, we're one of the biggest ships on the show, and like they'll make those. I saw like an HBO Max New Zealand Everyone Deserves a Work Bestie, and it was like fully a Kingdon edit, and I was like, you guys, you know what you're doing, you're being weird, like what's going on, and I was like I try to be chill about it, and then sometimes I'll be like, you're playing in my fucking face, walk away, I can't do this right now. And they I am still a fangirl at heart. Or a fangirl all the time. I just am still like a unhinged teen in my heart sometimes. And they I but it's crazy because I'll like be watching these interviews, and here's what really got me is I would be like, okay, they're just they don't realize what they're doing. They're theater, like you said, they're theater kidding. They're being insane. They're just gonna get on the mic and say the most unhinged shit. Like Taylor would go, Mel and Langdon could never date. Mel's favorite movie is When Harry Met Sally. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, if you, like, I feel like actors need to, like, understand how fandoms work, because if I was an actor and I said that, I would very much expect someone to go on Twitter and be like, girl, what's going on? Going back to their interviews, Patrick had an interview recently that I talked about on the podcast, because I normally don't like cover interviews or anything, because it's just, there's too many and it's not worth it to me, because I just be saying the same thing every time of like, I don't think they're going to go canon, and I'm very frustrated with the continued asking them about it, because they clearly don't really want to talk about it, and when they do ask them about it thoughtfully, they say crazy things that make me feel wild, and I need a break. Like I need church and state. But he had this interview with, I believe, Variety, where he was talking about R. Scott Gemmell, who's one of the creators of the show. It's John Wells, Noah Wiley, R. Scott Gemmell is like the big guys. He's credited on
Yeah.
every episode. He writes every episode. And he was saying that Gemmell tells them almost nothing.
Yeah.
So when Patrick said Frank is happily married, he didn't know that he wasn't.
Oh no.
And
Yeah, they're just saying stuff. Most of the
they're
time,
just
I feel
saying
like.
stuff. So
Yeah.
they have no idea what's going to happen. But plus the existence of Rollins, I have said that like I think that it would be very smart and interesting writing if, now that doesn't mean they have to be together, but I think it'd be really cool if they acknowledge them. I think it's
Hmm.
weird if this dynamic continues to develop the way it is and no one is like, hey, you guys are being weird about each other. Like, aren't you
Yeah.
married, dude? Like, it doesn't mean they're gonna kiss. It does mean that I think Princess and Perla have a bet. But and that's a whole other thing. He said this, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like, it'd be really interesting, and I feel like I would love like I've seen this in fic sometimes, and I hope it gets explored more as the series continues, of what's it going to be like when Robby comes back. So Frank is Robby, right? Like there, that's like that's the thing, is that he's the mentor, he's the prodigal son, and Robby fucked him up and messed him up and did a bad job, because at least that's what he thinks, because of the addiction. But in season 2, you see that Frank Langdon is the better version of Robby and is doing a good job and is doing the thing he couldn't do. And that's what we get in that final scene of like, I went to rehab and all I saw was you, and I'm trying to do the work that you refuse to do, but you're still writing me. And it's
Hmm.
that conversation. And it would be really fucking cool if Frank continues to work and continues to go to therapy and continues to do the things Robby could never do, of becoming a better man and breaking down all his issues and like, you know, like his self, like, you know, blossoming like a little flower. Well, Robby couldn't do that. And then if Frank could get with Mel, who's the resident below him, because Robby couldn't keep Collins, but he very clearly loved her and continued to love her and is sad when she leaves, and like, you know, we get all his man pain about it. But if Frank could be with Mel, it would be a perfect parallel to that, and he could keep her and he could have her and he wouldn't ruin it because he did the work Robby refused to do, which would show
Hmm.
to Robby that, oh, he was like, I did fuck up Frank, but it wasn't because I wasn't hard enough on him. It was because I wasn't willing to do the work on myself. Da da
Yeah.
da da. So I think about that a lot, and I've talked about that on here before, but I get to a certain point where I'm like, they're not, I don't know if they're that good. I don't know if they're gonna pull that off.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, okay, and yeah, I mean, I've also said if they go canon, I think if you've watched ER, you know that like sometimes they'll be like, these characters got married off screen. I feel
Yeah.
like that could happen. I feel
Yeah,
like when
definitely.
they're both written off and they're like, yeah, I'm going to Mel and Langdon's barbecue, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's like a
Wait a
throwaway line,
minute.
and they're like,
Yeah.
this is gonna get us traction on Twitter, and then me and all my friends can just like explode, you know, just casually.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I have like I got through all my questions. Is there
Uh-huh.
anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, I mean, yeah, I've had a good time just like chatting with you. I,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything that you sent me in the question list that we didn't actually kind of talk about. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I had
yeah.
like a think about your writing process. We talked about your writing process. We talked about your fic. I'm gonna plug you and say everyone go read it. I, yeah, I think that one of the things I appreciate the most about you is again how your characterization shifts. I think anyone who's listening has probably read Two Player, but I'm gonna plug my favorites, which are again, Baby I'm Your Number One Fan and Damn the Torpedoes. Damn the Torpedoes, I love your Mel in that. I love Mel being messy. I
Yeah.
think that Mel is not allowed. Mel is so messy in fanfic, and when we get that criticism from out, there was like a big, all the Kingdon drama are people being shitty to us and then us being like, this sucks, and moving on. And a lot of the time it's like, I feel like it never really gets that much traction because people just don't fucking care. But,
Hmm.
or if they do, they're like, this sucks, and then move on.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a big believer in unfollowing, or if someone's like posting, blocking, or just being like, I don't want to see this person's content anymore, and just being like,
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
just
can
not
curate my
that
feed.
serious. Yeah.
It's never been that serious, and I appreciate that seems to be the general vibe, especially in this community of like, why do you care? I don't care that you do this. Like, I don't care who you ship or what you post about. It doesn't have to be for me. It's fine. Like for example, I remember being like, when in the finale aired, I was like, I'm so happy for the Mentos. We got so many Kingdom scenes all season, and we got to have all these fun moments together. I really hope the people who ship Mel and Santos are having a great time right now with this
Hmm.
awesome karaoke scene. I also think the future of Mel and Santos being friends, and then also Mel and Frank being besties, I can't wait. I'm so excited. They better do something fun with that. I'm so pumped for that. I love them. Like
That's a very juicy relationship, yes, because
right?
they don't really get along is the funny thing. Like
No.
they don't seem to really like each other very much, but they're clearly making an effort at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like they both
Yep.
want to be friends, but they keep running into these roadblocks of,
Yep.
Mel not appreciating her humor, Santos thinking she's weird,
Yep.
whatever. And Taylor Dearden was fantastic in that scene. Wow, the sort of facial expressions and movements she was making as she was singing, I thought was incredible. Like
Yeah,
she's such a
she's great.
talent. Yeah.
I feel like especially like the Mel and Frank of it all, there's again I was saying there's a lot of criticism of like we take away her agency by shipping her with this man, and my whole thing has always been
I mean,
read any of the fanfic.
she's not real. What do you mean agency?
She's not real. What the fuck are you talking about? But I also would just be like, what fan content are you looking at? Because if you're reading something where she has no agency, I can guarantee you it's porn. Because any fic with like, because like, and if it is that shit tagged,
Yeah.
it's tagged.
Yeah.
Like if you're writing a Mel who isn't high key in charge of him, you're tagging it because it's not the general vibe. Like
It's
I
not the
don't know. I
norm.
just
Yeah.
it's not the norm. It's very interesting to see, like, I think people, it's very funny. You're like, oh, you're mad at a straw man. There was a period of time so we talked about this earlier. Mel Preg is like kind of blown up this summer, which thank God I've been so excited. But I talked about this a lot with Dr. Melbrowse because we were like discussing watching it kind of blow up and how exciting that was for us people who enjoyed that trope. Because there was like a lot of hate where they're like, I hate the fanfic where she's barefoot and pregnant. And I'm like, that doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I've looked. That's not real. Um, most of the popular fanfic, Mel is like, it's focused on her, and our
Yes.
characterization of her is always, I love it. As an autistic woman, it's so fucking cool to see people widely talk about it as like, it's just a part of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's dorky and she's nerdy and she's weird, and she's also a doctor and a bad bitch, and she's in charge of herself, and she cares for her sister, and she like is doing all these things. I also really appreciate that when people are writing Abby, especially writing Abby kind of being the worst, they'll be like, I'm doing this, please know that like I'm doing this for fiction. Like there's like a lot of conversation of like separating, like
Yeah.
I want to write the ex-wife being a bitch, but like I don't think most ex-wives are bitches. Like
Yeah.
these are not my views.
I mean,
And I appreciate that.
kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier with Frank not being a totally stand-up guy. I mean, it's an interesting thing to work with when you're writing because your natural inclination, especially because we write romance. I mean, there's exceptions, of course, but most of the time, what we're doing in fandom is romance, and so the happy ending is kind of implied, and so we don't dwell on things that are like not good or pleasant or like romantic. So it's a really interesting space to play around with a situation that is like objectively kind of sleazy, like Frank leaving his wife for a coworker, which I mean, it happens in real life. Like people do this. People blow up their lives and change in the span of like 3 months. I've seen it happen. And very rarely does it come out of nowhere. It seems to come out of nowhere if you don't know the person very well. But like if you know what built up to that moment, that snap moment when they're like, okay, enough, and then they leave their spouse or they move away or they quit their job, whatever. You understand it, right? And so like talking about these two characters, and also they're tools, right? They're not people.
Yeah. No,
you can bend them and twist them however you want to accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish in a specific project. But yeah, it's really juicy. It's really chewy. It's really fun. Obviously, like cheating is bad. I don't think any of us are like, yes, please go cheat on your wife.
No, I mean, I did recently post cheat on your wife, and then I tagged it Kingdon, but that doesn't mean I support cheating on your wife. Like, I'm joking.
I've been cheated on. Like, I friends have been cheated on.
Dude.
It's terrible. But at the same time, like, this is fantasy that we're dealing with. This is escapism romance, and we're exploring angles of human emotion and human relationships.
Yeah. I
using these tropes as a tool to do that. So,
yeah. There's a
what does it look like when the thing that will make you the happiest is going to hurt someone close to you, you know?
Yeah. And what does it look like when you have to blow up someone's life or you have to do the bad thing? And I think that I love a fic where Frank is grappling with that. That's why I love Dan the Torpedoes, because it is so good. I think that the way you wrote, I gotta talk about it. I don't get to talk about anyone about this fic because for whatever reason I'm the only one who's like, I ride for this shit. It's the fact that you read like 3,000 words of a dinner conversation and then they start having sex and then you backfill and I'm like, oh, and it completely recontextualizes it and then you go back and you read it and you're like, oh, this all makes sense now. Because at first I was like, this is some good dialogue. I'm enjoying this. Like, yeah, fuck yeah. I like that they're at sushi. This is enjoyable. And then they start having sex on the couch, and you're like, oh, I get it. I understand now what's happening. And again, it's like I'm a bad man, and I also really I love a Frank. I love when he is like being such a martyr. I'm a big Catholic Frank Langdon believer. He's such a martyr, and he's like, I need to be good. I've heard all these people, and Mel is just like, shut up for a second. Just shut up for a second. Just let me, like, like the understanding that like I like that fic ends almost with a happy ending while also understanding that they are doing something wrong and something is going wrong
Hmm.
and it's not working out how it should, but it's great. And I love the fact that they like start hooking up while they're moving him out of his house. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah, obviously. There's a fic I love. I read a lot of Abby. There's a great fic where Mel gets pregnant 6 months into their relationship after the divorce, and the way that this person writes Frank is so fucking good because it's not it's Abby's perspective. It's always Abby's perspective, and she never knows. The author made this really interesting choice. She never finds out Mel's an orphan. She never finds out any of Mel's backstory. That to me, and to almost every other Kingdon I know, makes anything that happens okay because you just feel so bad for Mel. I want Mel to be selfish and blow up her life because she fucking deserves it. She's earned this shit. But to Abby, this is just a random coworker who's kind of dorky. And you're like, okay, well, and he has this line where he's like, oh, Mel never sleeps. And she's like, why wouldn't she sleep? She's married. She's with a man she's obsessed with. She has a baby. She doesn't cry. She has a great job and a family. And like, she seems to have a family who cares about her. Why the fuck isn't she sleeping? I'm the one not sleeping. You left me. Like, we were going to have this marriage. It was going to be great. And like, I'm raising these kids alone. It's hard. And she also talks about like, it's interesting too, because I wonder, it's cool to think of him, especially in fic, and in this fic especially, him, like when she finds out she's pregnant with Tanner, he throws up in the sink and is like freaking the fuck out. And then like
Hmm.
they get married and she's like, I wonder if he did it again. I wonder if she got the better version of him.
Hmm.
And you're reading this fiction, you're like, oh, okay. And I at least personally, when I'm reading things and like within fandom, I'm the person who's like, I want to feel weird about it. I want to read something like there's plenty of Sid Carmi fic I love. There's an incredible Sid Carmi fic where they do not end up together,
Hmm.
and I love it because I like that exploration. I like the exploration where it's like Sid and Carmi in Canada are so fucked up that you're like, yeah, the relationship. Of course, the relationship would be toxic. You have to do all this legwork to get it to be good, which is one of the reasons Kingdon is so fun because like there's a fic I love where they don't cheat. They just like until the very end, and
Hmm.
it's called oh, I'm on fire. To
Hmm.
me, it's like load bearing, but I don't know a lot of people who've read it. It's great.
I
But
think I know. Yeah, I think I've read it. Yeah.
it's good. It's great, and like
Yeah.
because you're reading this whole first chapter, and Mel's a crush on him, and then all of a sudden Abby comes out of nowhere and punches her in the face, and she's like, "We're not having an affair." Or in Define Pity in a Boat, where they're doing things that aren't great, but like they're not. He's divorced and they're not dating, but everyone's acting like they're together, and I think that I'm really excited to see what happens in season 3 because in that interview where Patrick Ball was talking about how he's like, yeah, Frank's marriage is bad. R. Scott Gemmell gives this quote where he said, he was like, oh, we're writing the show. And he gives like their kind of blurbs. And he's like, Mel's growing admiration for a certain someone. And I,
Okay.
I, I mean,
Thanks.
come on. Like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? And also like Becca going, I can see why you like him. What's going on? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, I have to really, that line is one of those lines where I have to just kind of turn my brain off for a second and be like, I'm gonna pretend like this is platonic.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
also love the idea of Mel being like obsessed with him and thinking about
Oh
him for those
yeah.
10 months he was gone, which he clearly also seemed to be. Why do you still remember this inside joke?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, clearly that was like for and that's like one of those moments where they were probably expecting us to suspend disbelief for a second. And because,
Yeah.
you're calling, I mean, you don't have, with the format of the show being what it is, you don't have a lot of opportunity for continuity, because you're
Yep.
skipping forward so much and you're seeing so little. But at the
Yeah.
same time, if you think about it realistically, which inevitably we do, it's like, why do they both remember that word for word? It doesn't make sense. Or like, when Robby walks into the hospital in the middle of July wearing a sweater, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
That does make sense. If you work at a hospital, that makes a lot of sense. You're cold.
Okay,
It's
fair.
cold in there.
Fair.
I will say this. The pit, I work at a real hospital. I spend all my days on the floor. The pit gets almost everything right, except their blood draws are insane. They do them wrong. And also, doctors aren't that good in real life. But them
Yeah.
all wearing long pants and long shirts during the middle of July, I trained at a huge medical center, very similar to like what Pittsburgh Trauma Medical Center is supposed to be, like funded really well and like really nice. I was so fucking cold and it was like 99 degrees outside, so I would get in a hoodie and a long sleeve and like walk around all day shivering, and then I'd have to take it all off and take the bus home sweating my ass off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's realistic. They would be wearing jackets in the middle of July. That is real.
I will defer to your expertise on that. And also, now that I think about it, he was also riding a motorcycle, and you have to wear long sleeves when you're doing that, unless you're an idiot.
Like Robby, he's not wearing a helmet. It's when people were like he's suicidal and everyone was like, no, he's just not wearing a helmet. I was like, if you're an ER doctor, you're either like like there's two minds, people who work in the hospital, and it is you're so overly cautious you want to be wrapped in bubble wrap, or you don't care and death is just your friend now. And I feel like Robbie's the latter, which is what's interesting. I was like, oh yeah, no, he's suicidal. He knows. He's seen motorcycle accidents. We all have. Like you work in a hospital for 2 weeks. You see like six motorcycle accidents a day.
Yeah, like even people who don't work in healthcare know this about motorcycles. They are one of the most dangerous things that you can do ever.
I call them boom splats.
Yeah, it's just. I'm sure it's enjoyable, but no, thank you.
It looks fun. I was like, my final like Kingdon thing I was gonna say, it's like about Frank, is again like tying it back to my love of Mel and my love of this community. Is I am an autistic woman. I have dated 2 people. But I was in a relationship with a guy in high school, and it was like very short, but this is very common with autistic women. He was the first guy to ever show me any attention, and I was like very severely bullied growing up, which I had Ken and Mel as being bullied. She doesn't seem like she's ever had friends. It makes sense to me. He was attractive and he liked me. Yeah. And stood up for me when people were cruel. And which is kind of how Frank acts with Mel, where he seeks her out when she's having a hard time, and you understand that she's never had that before. And Taylor Dearden has said before that she's never had that. And even in season 1, when she's stapling the guy's head, they all leave her. And he sits with her during the crike and talks her through it. And it's like so kind. And like, which is pretty out of character for him. He's good when he wants to be. He wants to be good for her. Yeah. Why? I don't know. Who knows?
There's something very compelling about 2 people that they are different with each other than they are with everyone else. It's almost like I don't know if you've ever seen the TV. This is a deep pull, a deep cut. It's called Life, and it has Sarah Shahi and the one guy from the redhead from Band of Brothers. I can't remember his name right now.
I know the Band of Brothers guy, but I don't know the show.
British guy, yeah. So there's this one. My sister and I were obsessed with the show. It got canceled after like 1.5 seasons, and it ended on a cliffhanger and all this. But it's very, very good. And there's one scene in the very beginning where he's talking to his lawyer, and the basic plot is that he's just gotten out of jail, like he's been exonerated for a crime that he didn't really do.
Yeah.
And they're talking about it, and the lawyer has this line of where she's like, "Are you ever afraid that, we went to this like deserted island together, and now we can't get back?" Or it's something like that, and it always kind of like stuck in my brain, and it's always kind of turning around like they're in a blender, because there's just, what is a romantic relationship other than an island that you're both making a house on? You're
so profound.
You're building something in the middle of nowhere, and so it's very romantic, and it's very compelling, and it's very tempting. especially when you've never had it before, and you're in an intense environment, and you're feeling like really big emotions every day because your job is
Yeah.
really difficult. It's, yeah, I mean, you can totally understand why we write these stories about them just like going, fuck it, let's run away together, let's be weird about
I
each other,
mean,
you know, they're
let's be weird about
expressing
each other
things.
professionally. I'm always so compelled by the fact that they're being weird about each other. But a lot of people work in I work in healthcare. A lot of people work in healthcare and can relate to the emotions they're having, and as opposed to like we're chefs or we're run a company, like it's not as niche of a position. And him, I love the fact that they always fall in love over cheap pizza, and that they fall in love on pull-out couches and watching reruns of Survivor. I love that they are boring and normal people, and that the more we get to know about them, the more you're like, yeah. But what I was saying about even just my own relationship, this connection I had with this person was really profound and intense and really shaped me. I relate really heavily to Mel thinking about him for 10 months because when you've never had it before and you haven't had it since, you will think about it every day and you will think about that person.
Yeah.
And her when we meet her again, this is like a thing I was recording my second Patreon episode, and they asked. I was the thing that won on the poll was my hot takes about season 2, and I was discussing this, which is there's a very interesting idea in the wider Pit fandom that Mel is friends with the Pitlings, and she's just not. They think she's weird and they bully her. Javati has that comment about her where they just go, and Mel, and she makes that face, which, like, what the fuck? And then, like, Santos is mean to her, and Mel. It's hard because, like, they do become friends, and I completely understand why Mel went out to karaoke with her, but I sometimes fully have to like take a step back from the show and from fan stuff and like no, like I just can't engage with this because it hits too close to home for me.
Mm-hmm.
A skill that I think everyone should develop. But because sometimes I'll just be like, this isn't for me. I can't engage with this and I need to examine that in myself
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
for me at least, Mel and I are just so similar and the way that she is treated at work is how I am treated. Like, I get it. I understand that level of like infantilization and not being seen or understood and having no one try to see and understand you.
Mm-hmm.
And for Taylor Dayton, I've spoken about that and how this is the first time in Mel's life ever someone's done that for her is so sad to me. And
Yeah.
she's like 33. It fucking sucks. That this is the first time, and he's a married man who disappears for 10 months, who's addicted to benzos and was stealing them from the hospital. It's fucking hard. It's a hard situation and very compelling and very interesting. But I really, really struggle with Mel had friends because she just doesn't. She just frankly doesn't. And to be frank, and her him coming back and being there, I'm just like I completely understand why she was so obsessed with him for those 10 months. And I think that Mel brings out that softness in him, and I can understand why he might remember that from that long ago. Their dynamic was so powerful in season 1, and I'm happy that they are continuing to have that relationship moving, and that it seems very clear that the show, I was really afraid that when we would start shipping them, the show would, like, pull a Sid Carmi and be like, they don't interact anymore, fuck you. But they're not doing that, thankfully.
Yeah.
And even if they're not going to kiss, I'm more than happy that they're just going to talk to each other. That's all I need. I can build Kingdon cathedrals out of thin air, guys. Like, I'm not worried. But the fact that they are still so together. I also think that like Patrick has talked about this for it's a mutually beneficial relationship because Mel looks at the world differently than he does and he needs her. He needs I need you to quote Frank Langdon. He needs her to comfort him and to support him and to remind him that he is good because she sees the good parts of him that no one else does. And Mel needs Frank to remind her that she is worth it and she is a good doctor and she can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And just that relationship is so powerful and beautiful just at its barest bones platonically, and then you add on that level of like Frank is in a loveless marriage and Mel probably has had real I listen, I love Virgin Mel, I'm not gonna lie, but like her I way subscribe to like kind of what you're writing about in Dan the Torpedoes of like she's had like 2 to 3 relationships that weren't emotionally fulfilling, but like she's had sex and she has experience because she's an adult woman, but she comes to this relationship afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I love the idea of them just like I love that they take care of each other. I love that they're together. I love that they're, here, and I love that they're kind of blowing up their fucking lives for it because it's really romantic. It's really romantic to be like, fuck it. We're the only 2
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
exist.
I kind of go back and forth on the question of, is she experienced? Is she not experienced? Is she a virgin? You know, I I think in the beginning, early on, we leaned really hard into the idea that she is experienced because we were reacting to the infantilization that we were seeing from
Yeah.
other fans and people like journalists and things like that. It was just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
they treated it like it was so absurd. It's like, why? Like, why is this ridiculous to you? She's a human woman. He's a human man. They're the same age. They're attractive. Why wouldn't they? You know,
Yeah.
is there a compelling reason that you can explain to me other than the fact that she's kind of dorky and not quote unquote normal, you know?
I will say this with my whole chest. There is a reason that with Sid Carmi, it's that she's black, and
Mhm.
people are uncomfortable with that. With Mel and Langdon, it is simply that she's autistic. And for some people, they're like fine with it, but it's his addiction. So that also adds an aspect to it if like people just don't see addicts as
Oh,
humans.
oh, people
But
are very weird about that too. Yes.
yeah, and I I don't have an experience with addiction, so I can't speak to that, but as an autistic person, the way people act about us dating is so profoundly strange, and I just stop telling people. I
Yeah.
just don't tell people because it's not, it's going to fuck up anything. Like it just doesn't, it fucks it up. Because even as like I'm not stealth. People treat me weird and different, but I don't tell people I'm autistic anymore unless like I talk about it on the internet and I talk about it here because I'm being my authentic self. I'm talking about my special interests. I'm speaking to people I consider my friends and have real relationships with. But if I'm at work, I'm not talking about it. But my coworkers will use the R slur in front of me and say autistic as an insult all the fucking time because they think it's fine. And I can
Yeah.
imagine that for Mel, I've read really good fic about this too, where they're like, "Oh, honey, I need to set you up." Like there's a fic I read where they're trying to set her up with like a really ugly dorky guy from like pediatric surgery, and she's like, I'm having sex with ER Ken, so fuck off. Like, sorry. Like I can pull. And I also love the idea of Mel being Frank's type because I think that a lot of us have kind of imagined Abby as like a bombshell and as like
Uh-huh.
very very beautiful and like she's brunette to me because if she's blonde I'll lose my mind. And they like met in college. I love that I personally really had Ken and Frank as being super awkward and weird and dorky and like that history nerd self that came out in season 2 because they start treating him kind of weird when he comes back and they're like, "Oh, without your bravado kind of fell and now you're just like some guy." And like that ostracization is interesting because he comes back, but I always like imagine them as like being very similar. And so he meets her and he's just like, "Oh, I'm so into you. You're my type of girl." I just, it was kind of had this farce I was pretending to be, and that included marrying Abby and having her children and stuff. But
Yeah.
um
He's performing. He's putting on a performance the same way that Mel is when she masks her
yeah, yeah,
neurotypicism
yeah, yeah, and
in group
yeah,
settings.
but
And that Larry has
yeah,
a
totally.
Larry the writer. She has a story about that about Mel about Frank being into nerds when he was younger and then being ashamed of it and then kind of coming to you know seeing the light so to speak when he meets
Yeah.
Mel. It's very good. I never remember titles. I sometimes I don't even remember my own titles. Like
There is
I
a
had to think for a second when you said damn the torpedoes. I was like, wait, which one is that? Like, hold on.
it's well, I love that fic so much. One thing I love about you too as a writer, I'll just say this by whole chest. I fucking love that you are like popular and like a big deal, and like in my opinion, like again, like you have like all this fic on your page, and I'm like, oh, like when I first saw you, I was like, this is someone who's very good at this and has been doing it a long time. I have a lot of respect for this person, and I love the fact that you're like, I will put in an image at the end of my fic. Like I love it so much because I'm just like, yeah, fuck yeah, you're making a joke. Like I think that there's a fic where you're like ex-wife is the villain, author still a feminist. I'm like, I fucking
Oh
love
yeah,
this. This is awesome.
yeah,
But yeah, that fic's called Damn the Torpedoes Full Speed Ahead, and it's like a very well written like fic about like the complexities of relationships and like divorce and addiction. It's great. And I love that it's called Damn the Torpedoes Full Speed Ahead. That's
yeah.
hilarious.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
Um but
you
I
can't take yourself too seriously. Otherwise, I mean,
no.
that's how you get an ego. An ego kills your creativity faster than
Dude,
anything else in the world, in my opinion.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I when Daisy My Barefoot got popular, which um I it got popular and I remember like being like I need a beta reader right now or I'm gonna die. Like I can't be the only one entrusted to this because like having all those eyes on you is so scary. But even with like the podcast, I started the Patreon and I was like my goal is 2 members. So I was like no one's gonna subscribe to this. Like I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna keep being creative, but I'm at the end of it doing this just for me. I wanted there to be a Kingdom podcast and I was like, well, heavy is the head that wears the crown, to quote Dr. Walsh. I'll just do it. Like when I started the pod, I was like, I told my mom, I was like, I just want to FaceTime my fandom friends. I feel like this is a really good way to do that. And I have had, I wonder if this has happened to you. I've had people in my real life be like, when are you going to start doing things that make money?
Yeah.
When are you going to start making creative things that make money?
Yeah, I mean, and
Because,
people
like,
say that to me a lot. Yes, I am very old school in that I don't tell people, I don't talk about it in real life.
yep, yep.
It's just embarrassing for some reason, and it's not embarrassing, but it is. You know,
No,
it,
no, so I talk about it with my mother, and then she tells everybody, but I don't talk about it. And then I have one real life friend, so I speak to her about it. But like my coworkers, people I like meet, don't know, and they
yeah,
won't
you're
ever
not
know.
gonna
And I
like
use a different
introduce
name. Like
yourself
no,
and be like,
no, 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 no.
"Hello,
Like
I write
yeah,
fan
like
fiction.
when
How are you?"
yeah, no, 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 no. And like my AO3 was like my best kept secret in high school. Like I would be like, I love reading fanfic because I would talk to like other nerds, but like I never ever told anybody. But my mom is one of my best friends. My grandma reads my fanfic and she listens
Oh,
to the pod. Shout out. She's very cute. She doesn't understand anything that's happening,
yeah,
but she reads it. And she's like
she's having a good time. She's vibing. You know.
to my family, it's like you're making art and we want to support your art.
Hmm.
And part of that is asking you to monetize it. And you know, to people who have never I think that like one of the things I wish for people is I wish that everyone was in a fandom because it's such a wonderful experience. A good one at least. I wish everyone knew like I wish everyone had a Kingdon fandom. Not being Kingdon because if everyone became a Kingdon it would ruin it. But like I want,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
And
Like
it
I
can be very stressful also at the same time. I will admit that.
yeah.
It's not always good.
No,
Sometimes
no,
it's
no.
weird and annoying and strange and you know, just
When
like it is
season
with any group of people. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When season two was ending, I remember being like, I need a break. As season two is ramping up, we have not interacted at all before this, so you don't know this, but as season two is ramping up, I just volunteered to admin everything, and before I knew it, I was a big deal, and it was kind of scary. And I felt like it felt like becoming important at work. I had to like pay attention to shit, and I
Hmm.
was like, oh man, I'm cataloging stuff, and I'm doing these things, and like I need a break. I can't be on my phone all day. Like I need to a moment because like oh the stills are gonna drop and then we're gonna talk about the episode. And, like I love doing all that and it's really fun, but you need a couple months off where you can not go on Tumblr for a day and not worry about missing something huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you need balance in every part of your life. I think you can't make one thing your entire life, like all of your
Hmm.
free time. It's not healthy, and then you start to hate it inevitably because that's
Yep.
all you do.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, like I've been like been phases of my life where I was in a bad place, or like I just didn't have enough going on, or like I was just bored, and so I spent too much time doing it, and then that's when it got not as fun anymore, you know. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you do need breaks. Otherwise, you start focusing too much on the discourse and the arguments and the back and forth, and then that never
Yep.
it never
Yep.
leads
I
to
mean,
like having fun. You're never having fun,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, I very purposely don't look at the discourse because I have a rule with myself where like I can be very online and I can also at the same time be like I don't care. It's a show, guys. It's not that fucking serious. I don't care. Like all the when season two was airing and everyone was arguing if Robby was a good person or not. About once a week, I just like reblog someone I agreed with, and then I would leave it alone. I'd be like, I would like you to know where I stand on this, but I don't really care. Like I'm not I'm not that concerned with it. I'm also unconcerned with what other people are doing because, like, I peeked in on some like racism discourse, and I was like, "What are we doing, guys? What's
Yeah.
happening?" I'm not interested in this, and I think that like even when it comes to like Kingdon getting hate, at the end of the day, I'm just like, well, they are fictional characters,
Yeah.
and you're being weird, and I don't care. And also, like, I think a lot of the genuine criticism that comes from within the fandom, well, one, there's not really any because the conversation will be like I have read fic that makes me uncomfortable and I don't like, and my response to reading that, saying other people, not me necessarily, but like people who have talked about it or like have like stumbled upon something that wasn't tagged properly and read it and didn't enjoy it,
Hmm.
their response has been like, I didn't read that again, and I didn't engage with that author.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff, I'm not a big AU reader, so I don't read AUs. I'm not going out here being like, fuck college AUs, mainly because I love college AUs. But like, if I was, if I didn't, I think that that's weird, and I think that that's something that, for whatever reason, other parts of the fandom are doing. Like, I've definitely noticed in some pit circles, people will be like, here's why I hate blank, and I'm like, why are you doing that? You're just inviting negativity into your life. Why are you? This is the fun escape place. Why are you bringing in hatred? This doesn't make any sense to me. Um, just I don't know. It's very weird because I feel like I have a strange perspective where I'm just like, I feel like I got that out of my system, and I got that out of my system before I had places I could post. So
Yeah. Well, that's
when
why
I wanted
everybody
to be
needs a group
hateful,
chat. You need a group chat. That's where all that stuff goes.
yeah.
When you see something and you're annoyed by it because you're like, oh, I hate that. It's a very understandable reaction. Everybody does it, and it's
When
not
I get a
morally
bot
wrong.
being
Yeah, but you just
yeah,
and you tell your friend. You don't post it, for everybody.
yeah,
Like,
like in my group chat with my two best friends, Allison and Paige, we say crazy shit sometimes because we can, because it's fun and we're not being serious. Like I can, if I'm grumpy about something Patrick Ball said, I'm not going to post about it on Tumblr because I kind of already made that post. It's boring to just be like, he's playing in my face and I'm annoyed about it. He doesn't know what's going on in the show. Why are you talking about it here? Why are you? I did think I will stand by the time that he was on. He was talking to Gail King, and he said he looked in the camera and went, "Langdon is very happily married," and Gail King is like, "I obviously don't support shipping." And I did post we sent Gail King to space, and she came back a Kingdon auntie, which I thought was funny because I was like, "We did send her to space, and she did come back down. Now she hates Kingdon."
what a
Um,
weird
but
thing. I don't support that.
yeah, this was great. Thank you so much. You're obviously invited back if you want. Everyone go. If you haven't already, you have. Go read Avocadomoon's fic. Go back and read the stuff that you were like, maybe you were looking through her work and you were like, I'll read this later. Go back and read it. Give it a kudos. Give it a comment. Give us some love. That's
Thank
what we want to
you.
hear. And then also, I will say, like I say at most episodes, go read some fanfic. Go make some fan art. Go consume content. Doesn't even have to be for Kingdon. I hope it's for Kingdon though.
Yeah. Well,
And
and
shout out.
I want to say also, sorry to interrupt. I just
No,
want
you're
to
good.
be like, do read and consume, but also like I want people to feel inspired by it.
Yeah.
I want more interaction, not interaction, but like stories and like creativity, and yeah, I just do your own thing. Like, don't
If
be
you
don't be nervous or afraid if you've never written anything before. Like, do it. Just do it.
do it, make it, go
Just
do it.
go. Really.
I The lifeblood of fandom is the fanfic that you thought no one would read. You have to go and make it. And you're writing it in your notes app at 2 a.m. You're some of the greatest one of the fanfics that is the most popular and well known was written while someone was nursing their newborn baby at 2 a.m. It's never the wrong time. You can do it. And even if you think it's bad, even if it's I can guarantee you it's not as bad as you think it is. And I can also
Yeah.
guarantee you that there's an audience out there for it. I have read so much fic in my day, and some of it is like some of the most impactful work that has shaped my life and made me feel seen was fanfic and was fan art. And if you are making it, you are doing something worthwhile. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Just because you can't make money off of it doesn't mean it doesn't rule, okay? Shut up. And I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Meg, for coming on. I look up to you so much. I can't thank you enough. Like this
Oh,
is
thank you.
I
It was so
when I got
nice.
that message, I did scream. I was alone in my house and I did yell. She said yes. I was very excited.
It was really fun.
And
I mean, thank you for having me, and yeah, thanks
yeah, of
for
course. Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
chill, and yeah, it was a new experience for me, but it was a good one. So
I'm happy to give you. I'm also you're so overexposed. I'm happy to give you a platform to talk on your own terms and not have someone talk for you or have to speak through an author's note.
yeah,
Happy to
yeah,
be like, this is, to prove that you're a real person who shouldn't be getting the bullshit sent your way. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you next week. I will also plug. I have a Patreon, the Kingdom Radio, our Patreon. That's where you can get bonus content from me, including bonus episodes. It's also a great place if you want to suggest episodes. Another way to do that is to send an ask to my Tumblr. If you have anything you want to talk about, want me to talk about on the pod, send an ask. Start it with for the pod. I respond to basically all of them. So there's a really high chance you make it on the show, guys. And I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thank you so much. All
yeah.
right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.